All right, everybody, welcome to the Batman review. So I just watched it. It is almost 3 in the morning for me. So I apologize if I seem a little out of it, because I'm probably really tired. I'm a little hiked up right now, but we'll see how long that lasts. Anyway, um, we are going to obviously do this talking about generalizations and then finish off with more spoiler and specific reviews. So, um, to start off with a general, how do you say, a general synopsis of it or rating of it. I haven't watched all the Batman movies that have come out. I've watched bits and pieces of, the runs that started, like the Tim Burton ones, like the original four. I've seen all the Christian Bale Batman, and I've seen everything that Ben Affleck's Batman has been in, and I've seen this Batman. And in my opinion, and I played a little bit of the Arkham games, I guess, but I haven't really watched any shows related to Batman or anything else. But in my opinion, this is probably my favorite Batman and my second favorite Batman movie. Again, I haven't seen the original ones or anything, so don't crucify me for it. Um, but I definitely think it's a good movie. As someone who usually partakes to Marvel, I was really excited for this movie, and I think it did not disappoint. I think it did a really good job living up to expectations. The only warnings I would have is it's kind of a slow burn, especially since it's a 3-hour movie. But um, I think it makes sense for how much of a slow burn it is, and it didn't really bother me, aside from the fact that I was a little uncomfortable in my seat, but that has nothing to do with the movie. If I was sitting at home, lazily sitting on my couch with a bag of chips in my hand, man, this movie would definitely hit the spot, is all I can say. Um, there are, as someone who has seen like the first two, or like the main two or three trailers, like the one that they originally launched, and then the two, and then so they launched the first one at the first DC fandom. They did another one the second DC fandom, and then they did a third one closer to the release of the movie after DC fandom 2. I've seen all three of those, and this movie still took I couldn't predict everything that would happen in it. It wasn't like whoa shocking, but I think if you're worried that it was like spoiled in the trailers, unless you've been like watching every trailer and clip that has ever come out, and you've been like somehow managed to put it in order and everything like that, unless you do that, you should be able to go into this movie and be decently surprised, be questioning. I know that obviously the main villain's the Riddler. All the clues that he left behind, I spent like my own. I tried to see if I could beat the Batman to solving it. He'd leave a riddle. I'd try to think of the answer to it, and then Batman would obviously beat me to it because, first of all, it's in the script. Second of all, I'm stupid. Um, but I think Robert Pattinson's version of Batman so far, he's got a lot to go through, obviously, since it's like, his first version of Batman, even though he supposedly has been doing it for a year. Excuse me. Which you can definitely tell in this movie, without getting into spoilers, that, he's been doing it a little while. But I think it's very interesting, the Batman to Bruce Wayne ratio situation, I guess. I did hear a review before I went in, or like a quick saying of it, that this is more of a Batman movie than a Bruce Wayne movie, and that is mostly the case. Again, I'll get into it later. But yeah, I think it's a good movie. If you're a comic book fan, you should just see it. Like I said, I usually pertain more to Marvel movies and stuff like that. But I was excited for the Batman, and I was not disappointed by it. So that's my 2 cents on the situation. Moving on to spoilers. So from here on out, we will be talking more in depth on the situation. I know the non-spoilers didn't last too long, but again, I just saw the movie and I'm a little tired, so I'm just gonna start going right into it. Obviously, some of you may know or remember my old co-host of the Hazardous Intent podcast, Joe. Um, you know, if you ever go back and look at those, or hopefully maybe we started it again. Um, if you're watching this in the future after the Batman is like really old, because I know sometimes I go back and watch old reviews for stuff, because why not? Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. I'm gonna give his opinion since he is unable to be here, since he has to take care of his niece in the morning. Um, so yeah, uh, the riddles that Riddler left behind, I thought were really good. A couple of them were like, I can't think of the word to use, kind of like cheesy, classic, unoriginal riddles or whatever. Um, or maybe I just think that because people have been trying to decipher all the riddles in the freaking trailers. But I thought most of the riddles were pretty good. The way that it like slowly connects every little nook and cranny and little detail inside of every little part of the movie is really good, because his riddles have a lot of meaning. There was even a part where Gordon and Batman find a riddle that says it's something in Spanish that roughly translates to a rat with wings, and they spend like a quarter of the movie trying to figure out what the hell that means, because like early on in the movie they're kind of solving the riddles like decently quickly, um but then this one they're stuck on because it's about a rat, like a narc on a drug ring and stuff like that, and they're trying to figure out who the rat is, but they keep going to people and they're not the rat. So it's a whole weird situation with that. um and Robert Pattinson's Batman, like I said, it is kind of more so a Batman story, because he spends a lot of time in the suit, or if he's not in the suit, he's still doing investigating as Bruce Wayne. There's not a lot of time for Bruce to have his own life or whatever, because he's dedicated himself to Batman so much. Until the end, where like the Riddler's like, "Oh, the Waynes are involved too," which I think has appeared in the trailers. Not that that matters because we're in the spoiler territory. Um, but the Riddler talks about how the Waynes are involved in whatever the hell he's planning and all that stuff. And yeah, I like his version of Batman. It's like a lot more, obviously, we don't want more gritty stuff, but like it is a grittier Batman. Like he is very like brutal and kind of straight to the point, but at the same time, he seems sort of fair. Like there's a moment where Selena Kyle's like breaking into the crime scene to like get a passport for her friend or whatever, and Batman shows up and she like takes a couple swings at him, or like and swings and kicks and stuff like that at him, and he either dodges or like blocks him, and eventually gets her pinned down, and then just like takes the passport and like lets her free. Like he ultimately doesn't give a shit that she's like stealing or whatever. Uh, but like like he kind of has a little bit of big picture mindset. The Penguin in it was good. He just like popped up every so often. He wasn't like as main of a villain as I thought he was gonna be. He's in it a lot, but it's not so much as like a main driving force. He's kind of like, if you've seen like the Netflix Marvel shows that are not Netflix anymore, but still like Luke Cage and stuff like that. He's kind of like Turk. Like Turk just like pops up and is like, hey, I got some information. That's kind of what the Penguin is in this. Like he still resists a little bit and stuff, but ultimately he's just kind of there for like, hey, you have an inside like track on the criminal world. Tell us some information. And but it definitely sets up for the sequel to have a more main role for this man, which is good, obviously, to get more Penguin. I thought Jim Gordon was pretty funny as well. I know Joe said that too. It's almost like since he has to deal with Batman and everything like that, he's kind of become a little desensitized in some situations. And so he's just like the way he responds to certain situations is interesting. And I really like the relationship that Jim and Batman have in this. Jim very much respects him, and there's even a moment where Jim just the Batman asks Gordon, he's like, "Hey, which of these cops do you trust?" And Gordon's response is just, "I trust you," saying that to Batman. And that's very apparent because throughout the entire movie, Gordon and Batman are working by themselves. Like, sure, when there's a crime scene, there's other cops and stuff there, but they do their own investigating, and Gordon doesn't tell people. Um, and it's also interesting to see how like other cops react to Batman. Like, most of them don't like him, but there's also one that kind of like doesn't like him, but kind of respects him and stuff like that. And they, for the most part, see that he like it's you kind of get a vibe that the cops don't like him because he's doing their job for him and not just because he's Batman. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, "Oh, we don't want you here." And then he like Gordon for a while it was Gordon vouching for him. It's like, let him in. But then at some point he would just like walk in, some guy would be like, "No," and then Batman just looks at him. He's like, "All right," which I kind of like that fact. You know, the cops know that he is good. He just, is a vigilante, so they have some. He's on top of being a vigilante. He's a vigilante that dresses like a bat, so they have some reservations about that whole situation. But that's neither here nor there. The main plot followed up is like following around the Riddler's whole, like, he was in an orphanage and stuff like that, and he felt betrayed by the elites of society and everything. And so this whole thing was just about getting rid of corruption and all this other stuff, people with dirty money and dark secrets and blah blah blah. It's like there's like a couple of conspiracies going on all at the same time, and that's kind of because Selina's story is separate from the Batman story. They just happen to intersect, which I kind of enjoyed because I openly acknowledge it several times that that's the case. Like, Selina, Catwoman, well, she's doing her own thing, and then Batman's there, and he's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm doing this thing, remember?" And he's like, "Well, I'm doing this thing." He's like, "Oh, led us to the same person." Like, there's even a moment where she, like, reaches out to Batman and is like, "Hey, we both want this guy for some reason, so how about we get them together?" And then Batman's like, "Okay, well, when you find out something, let me know." And she's like, "Yeah, sure." Because there's even an interesting moment where the bat signal goes off, and Batman and Gordon both show up to it around the same time, and they're like, "Did you use it? No, I thought you were using it." And it turns out to be Catwoman, which I thought was actually cool, kind of. But yeah, I really enjoyed, like, I don't know, the Riddler stuff was definitely really creepy in some aspects, but you can also tell that, like, and he acknowledges this in the movie, that the Riddler is not a physical threat. And like I said, there's a moment where Batman goes and talks to Riddler, and Riddler confesses everything and blah blah. And Riddler even says, he's like, "I'm not like you. I'm not strong. I got brain power, homie. That's why I make up all these riddles and shit." And the Riddler is very much a crazy man who's been kind of like hyper focused on the delusions of getting justifications for being, you know, an orphan that's kind of abandoned by society, essentially. And yeah. uh, and then, like, all the different, like, crime stuff, like, Batman fights some criminals at the beginning just so we get a look at him, and we definitely see that Batman is, in fact, a force to be reckoned with. He's always been known as, like, he takes on a bat because he's afraid of him, and so he's facing his fear and then turning it into other people's fear and stuff like that. And you can tell in this movie that criminals are afraid of him. Like, the beginning shows that, there's a bunch of criminals running around doing stuff, and then they see the bat signal in the sky, and they're like, "Oh shit, Batman's on the prowl." And then, like, they see a dark corner, and they're like, "Man, fuck that dark corner. Batman's probably in there. It's dark as fuck." Which I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie, having the criminals, like, actually be scared of the Batman for once, as opposed to how in like the Christian Bale ones for the most part. No one was really scared of the Batman. They're like, oh, it's the Batman. And like that's kind of it, honestly. They just knew that he was around. Like they were kind of scared of him when he first popped up, but like in the Dark Knight, they weren't really scared of him. They just knew he worked at night, so they quit doing shit at night. Like it's pretty much openly stated in the movie that that was the case. But yeah, and I just think it was a good movie. I really liked his suit. He's probably my favorite suit out of all the Batman. Just because it's all layered and stuff, and it's interesting because it's really bulletproof. It's like it's really bullet resistant because like there's a couple times, like he gets shot. There's like a couple times he gets shot by surprise and he reels from it. Like there's a moment where he gets shot in the side and he like lays on the ground for a while, and at the end he gets shot a lot, and you can see like in his chest there's like bullet holes and stuff like that. Like, and there's even to a point where like he almost dies essentially because he gets shot so much and he's like hanging on the edge of something. He doesn't have the physical strength to lift himself up because he's been shot so many times. And Selena has to save him, and then she gets attacked and he can't even get up off the fucking ground to help her until he like puts some drugs in his system. But yeah, it was also interesting that, you know, his chest symbol did end up being a batarang like some people suspected. I'm trying to think of what Joe said just because I want to get his opinion in here and everything like that because, you know, he's a bigger Batman fan than I am. And so I would really like to be able to have him Batman it up, essentially. I know that he said he was really interested in a sequel for this movie because, you know, like, Robert Pattinson isn't Batman yet. He's the Batman. You know what I like? He's not the classic version of Batman. You know, he's his own version. He's still trying to figure things out. He's overly violent. He's not really a symbol of hope until the very end of this movie. When all the fighting's done and he realizes people need help, he goes down there and is like, I can help you too. Like I'm not just a dude that beats the shit out of people. And Joe was talking about like how that's what makes him excited for a second movie is getting to see that getting to see him take on that role more of being a beacon of hope for Gotham because he's supposed to be someone that like criminals fear, but innocent people are like, oh yay, it's Batman, he's here to save us. But they're not at that point yet. Like I said, at the end they're gonna show it. Selena leaves at the end of the movie, but I don't think that's permanent. Like, let's be honest, she's gonna come back, especially since they like had some romance in it and stuff like that. And someone, when I watched it, complained after the movie that they forced too much romance in it, but I didn't really feel the case. Selena came from a very rough childhood, and so that can leave her with a bit of emotional like ups and downs. And so her, because she's also the main one who does the flirting. Batman kind of flirts a little bit, but it's mainly Selena. But that's also her job in this movie, is that she's like a waitress slash like escort. So she's supposed to be like super flirty and nice to like dudes and stuff like that. And Batman, and I think she could tell that Batman was like I said, they're not on the same path. Batman even is like, you know, she goes to like look for her friend and they're working together to get some information, and she abandons Batman's plan of getting information he wants to get information that she wants. But like again, she knows that he's decently good enough to where like she trusts, you know, him enough to be vulnerable with him and stuff like that. She talks about her backstory and everything. And again, she's the main aggressor of the passion. I think a little bit is because, you know, Batman's mysterious. She wants to know what's going on under that mask, man. But yeah, with the, like the background she has, it would definitely be make sense for her to have like not a traditional sense of romantics. And so I didn't feel like the relationship felt too forced because I knew from the trailers they were going to be flirty, but I didn't know how far that was going to go. And it definitely kind of like hit a little bit, especially at the end. It was so kind of like they kissed at one point in the movie because Selena I think was trying to get kind of a vibe check on him, to be honest. And they almost do it at the end of the movie. It's like a goodbye kiss, but Selena like says like backs away and like says something, and then like they part ways and stuff like that. So I think she'll be back. I hope she'll be back. I think Zoe Kravitz was really good in this movie, which is kind of what I expected from the trailers because I kind of like saw the trailers and I was like, this looks really well done. And I should talk about the individual characters and stuff like that. Like I said, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman was really good. She had good depth. Obviously good acting. And to my knowledge, she did a decent amount of the fight scenes herself, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think she was really good. I've already said that like Robert Pattinson's one of my favorite Batmans now at this point. I really like the Christian Bale movies, but I didn't really like his Batman specifically. I like his movies. Like, I like The Dark Knight because I like Heath Ledger's Joker in it. I don't know. I think it's also because, quick tangent about The Dark Knight. I think I like The Dark Knight because it was like the Batman that I remember when it was coming out, like thinking about a lot. Because my friends in summer school would talk about it. Not summer school because I was a bad kid or because I was stupid, but like my parents didn't trust me to be home alone because I was like 9 still, and so they like there was like a summer program. It's not important. Anyway, yeah, I really like Robert Pattinson as Batman. I know Joe said that he didn't really like that he didn't really have a Batman voice. Um, he just kind of whispered and was like very like, the Riddler's doing bad stuff, like kind of stuff like that. And Joe also kind of complained. He didn't really complain, but I think it shows to this character he committed himself more to Batman than Bruce Wayne. Like I said, people to say it's a Batman movie, and it very much is compared to Bruce Wayne. Because when he is Bruce Wayne in public, he's very awkward and doesn't really know how to put on his persona. Which Joe didn't really complain about it. I think it was just like, like he was like, "Come on, dude!" Like as if Batman was real. Like if Batman was a real person, he would be quote unquote complaining, but he didn't complain about it in the movie. His main gripe was just that the Batman voice was kind of like whatever. But I liked his portrayal of Bruce Wayne because like I said, he dedicates himself to Batman, and so when he's not Batman, he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm so confused. Like he's sensitive to light. He's got bloodshot eyes. He goes in public and people are like talking to him and trying to be social, and he's just kind of staring because he doesn't really know what to say. And Jim Gordon, Jeffrey Wright, the Watcher, he was really good in it. Like I said, he was pretty funny. He didn't really like get any big acting moments. Like he didn't have to like, act too much. Didn't have to cry or anything. But I think he was really good in the role. He definitely walks that line of being the person who believes in Batman the most and is also like super law abiding and like all that stuff. Like he's very obviously like a clean cop and all these other things. I don't really know how to describe him, to be honest, but he was really good in it. Obviously, the Riddler. I think it kind of goes just because. So like, it's interesting. I really enjoyed kind of seeing a Batman take more modernized. I know we've seen Ben Affleck's Batman in the modern day, but we haven't seen him really do anything like this one, like have to deal with an actual villain, one of his villains. And so I like seeing Riddler like using social media as a way to be a villain and stuff like that, and like sending his shit to news outlets and all this other stuff, and he's doing puns and all that. I definitely thought his acting was good when he was like doing his videos. He had his creepy mask on, he was talking weird and everything. But then when it got to, and again, I think it's just like he was really embodying the serial killer. But like when Batman was talking to him in jail, he just came off as really weird. I kind of couldn't stand it. a little bit, to be honest. But again, I think that's the point, because he's a serial killer. He's crazy. He's disconnected and everything like that. And so, like, him being off-putting and annoying and, like, you kind of want to punch him in the fucking face makes sense. So that's technically a testament to the actor. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm not saying I want to hit the actor. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything, so I don't really have an opinion on him. But in this, I think he was really good at pretending to be a serial killer. He's definitely got to look for it. I don't know if they had makeup on it, because he looked a little different in the movie compared to, like, a pre-show thing that I saw. I don't know. But I feel like, Alfred as Alfred. Andy Serkis as Alfred, I think, was really good too. They gave him a cane, which is interesting. I honestly thought that, because I know Alfred traditionally has, like, a background in being in the army or something like that. I thought that with Andy Serkis being a little younger, compared to most Alfreds, I honestly thought he was going to excuse me, have an action scene of his own. But he never really did. But he was pretty smart. We see him, like, helping with ciphers and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about him, but, like, because he didn't really get a lot of screen time. He showed that he cared about Bruce and everything. It was like, you gotta quit doing the Batman thing, dude. You're fucking yourself up with this shit. But at the same time, he's like, stop being Batman. And then Bruce is like, I have this cipher. I can't figure it out. I'm gonna leave. And then he'd come back, and Alfred's like, I'm doing the cipher. I gotta, like, half figured out. Which I thought was pretty cool. I feel like there's another character. I guess the Penguin. I think I already said what I had to say about him. But he was pretty good in the movie. Good acting. Prosthetics looked good and all that stuff. He was kind of funny. I don't know. He was a very interesting character, is all I can say. Because, I don't know, he walked a weird line of being, like, not the worst person, but not the best person. I don't know. Like I said, I think in the next movie he's going to be a lot more of a villain. Because in this, he wasn't terrible, but he was very obviously, like, still willing to kill people, because he tries to kill Batman, and he does some dangerous driving that probably killed some people and all that stuff. But I feel like that's it in terms of characters. They did reveal the Joker was going to be coming into the fray, which I'm very interested to see how that works out, especially since it does seem that the Riddler might be coming back for a sequel. It might be a little bit more cartoony, if that's the right word. But because, like, at the very end of the movie, not the end credits, but which apparently the most the end credits is just like a little text based teaser or logo based teaser, something like that. But at the very end of the actual movie, before the credits, the Riddler's in prison. He's all upset that his plan didn't work, and then the Joker is, like, doing a riddle with him, offering his friendship, and he's like, Gotham loves a comeback story, so it does look like that Joker and Riddler might team up at some point in the future, whether it's the next movie or the third movie, if they make a third movie, remains to be seen, but yeah. Not sure I have much more spoiler stuff. Like I said, I'm really tired, so I don't really know what the fuck is going on. I'm just trying to get this cranked out as soon as possible. But that being said, it was a good time. I think that it, worked really well as a movie. Oh, and like I said, it's a long movie, sorry, you can kind of feel that it's a long movie because it's a very slow burn, but it's because Batman did a lot of actual detective work in this, I feel. Like, he's literally, like, he shows up to a crime scene, he's looking around, noticing features, he's looking in books and stuff. He's very attentive, I guess is the word to say, which that's what, and like I said, it takes him, like, there's some parts where he's like, I don't really know how to solve this. which I feel like adds to the realism of the show or the movie. And like I said, I only mainly felt the slow burn because I was uncomfortable, and so I was like, God, how much longer do I have to sit in this fucking seat? But the movie itself, I was like very interested in it, and when there was action, I thought it was good action, especially the final battle where Batman's going around beating the shit out of dudes. It's pretty fucking cool. That's all I can say. And the whole, oh my god! All right, I'm gonna have to end soon. But the whole conspiracy thing going on, I think I've said this already, but it's really good. I don't really know what else to say about it, to be honest. Just a really good movie all around. So yeah. That's all I have to really say about the Batman. But stay tuned for more reviews and other stuff related. Got some other review based stuff I want to come out in the future. A little more nostalgia based stuff. Joe wants to bring over some movies that I haven't seen, like the original Batman movies, and have me watch them and talk about them and stuff like that, which I think will be fun. So definitely keep an eye out for that type of stuff. Other than that, thanks for listening. Comment what you thought about the Batman down below. If you thought that my take was interesting, share it. If you thought that I did a really bad attempt at a take, share that too. I don't give a fuck. Like, it's all about the engagement. But yeah, thanks for listening, and hope you have a good one.